You are listening to the first ever episode of the Happy Camper podcast. I'm your host, Kieran Doherty, and I travel all around the world to race motocross and just try to make a name in the sport. If you have any interest in motocross and supercross, then this is the podcast for you. I cover race reports of the most recent races, talk to pro and amateur athletes in the sport, and most importantly, I recap everything I'm doing week by week and share all of my amazing stories on this podcast. To put it simply, I'm traveling all around the US this year in my camper, and I'm really happy about it. On today's episode, I introduce you to the ins and outs of what this podcast will be about, and then after the break, Nate Adams, the most decorated X Games moto athlete of all time, joins me to chop it up about the latest and greatest in his life and what's going on in the sport right now. Let's jump right into the show. All right, so for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm just gonna use the next 15 to 20 minutes to introduce you to who I am, what this podcast is about, why I'm doing it, what you'll get out of it, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to answer a couple questions, and then we'll go from there. But basically, what is this podcast? This podcast is an action sports, more specifically a motocross podcast called Happy Camper. It's hosted by me, Kieran Doherty. I'm just a 17-year-old kid from Canada, and I'm just basically traveling all around the U.S. trying to go to motocross races and interviewing athletes in my camper. So I'm pretty pumped about that, and that's why it's called Happy Camper. Also, if you know who Hoodie Allen is, he has an album that called Happy Camper, and I'm using the sound clips from that. And basically, I really like his music, so I thought it was a cool tribute. And if you're wondering, do I have the legal means and the licensing rights to use those sound tags? No, I absolutely do not have any of that. And hopefully it never gets to the point where I need to be sued for this. But if it does, then hopefully I get to meet Hoodie Allen, or at least he'll know who I am. So I mean, it's sort of a win-win in this situation, and I thought it was cool to use the little points in his album where it says Happy Camper, as you heard at the beginning, and that'll be really cool. So basically, I'm just a 17-year-old kid traveling all around the world. I even got to go to the UK earlier this year and race the Pro Lights class there, and in the UK Arena Cross Series, which was really awesome. If you want to hear stories every single week about me crashing and sliding out in corners and ending up getting lapped and not being able to start my bike, then this Across the Pond podcast that I recently hosted, it was 15 episodes. That's the podcast for you to listen to. It's whether or not I'm making a joke of it, it's actually got some really great stories over there, and it was very cool. It's definitely... Hopefully, this is going to hopefully be a lot better than that. But, I mean, it was a cool podcast to record, and I had such a fun time over there, so I can't really complain about that. And it was definitely some memories that I'll always have in my heart forever, so that'll be very cool. What will you get out of this podcast? You'll basically get about 30 to 40 minutes of content every single week. I don't know if the pilot episode is going to be very, this is probably going to be maybe upwards of an hour. I don't know, but I want to make sure that you'll probably get 25 to 35 minutes of content every single week. And you're basically going to get a race report. So whether that's a supercross race, an arena cross race, which I'll definitely be talking about because I'll be at all those races trying to get my pro license, or an MXGP, or Monster Cup, or Straight Rhythm, like some one-off races and some amateur races too. So that'll be cool for the race reports and stuff like that. I will also be interviewing athletes, hopefully every single week. I can't guarantee an athlete every single week, but I'm going to make it my best effort to make sure that they're on the podcast. And if there is no athlete, then that doesn't mean you're getting less content. You're getting maybe a main story where I'll talk about a significant topic in the sport, whether that's a main story of something that's going on and a controversial topic. I'll basically try and solve it. And if I don't do a main story every single week, maybe I'll be reviewing a track. But the plan is to break the podcast up into 3 segments: Kieran's Corner, race report when there's in every single race, and then hopefully an interview. And then you'll have like a rotating cast of an interview, a main story, or a track review every single week. And you'll just be getting some great content. So I'm really excited to just keep producing these and making sure that it's fun for everybody to listen to. So that'll be great. I can't wait to just keep going. This episode is brought to you by Slakawear. Everything about the Slakawear brand encapsulates the action sports lifestyle. Whether you're a surfer, skater, or motocross racer, Slakawear's got you covered with some really unique apparel that is sure to set you apart from the crowd wherever you go. So head to slakawear.com, that's SLAKA, wear.com, to check out all of their unique and comfortable apparel and use the promo code podcast20 to get 20% off your entire order at checkout. Also, post a photo of you in your Slakawear apparel, tagging me and Slakawear, so we can check out your style. Slakawear, life made easy by hard work. Let's get back to the show. All right, I'm on the phone with Nate Adams right now. Nate, welcome to the podcast.
All right, thanks, Kieran. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
So, for everybody who doesn't know you, I don't know why that would happen, but all of my friends' parents who are listening to this, do you just want to tell them who you are?
Yeah, my name's Nate Adams from Glendale, Arizona. Grew up riding dirt bikes and knew from a young age I wanted it to be my life. And luckily, freestyle came about right as I was becoming a teenager because I was not a very good racer. And turned pro at 15, and I'm 32 and still going. So loving it.
That's absolutely insane. And I was also looking up online just a little bit of stats a couple days ago, and it says that you're the most decorated X Games athlete in the Moto division.
Yeah, I actually heard that just a couple months ago at X Games this year. So I didn't even know that, but that's an honor. Especially I've been competing with guys like Brian Deegan and Travis Pastrana and Adam Jones, and all these guys that are just amazing athletes and riders and very driven people. So to be able to have that is it's like a trophy on the shelf.
Major accolade, right? So
yes, sir.
That's awesome. So you said you got into racing to start with, right?
Yeah. Me and my brother grew up racing, and my dad rides, still rides, and he's a big enduro and trail riding guy. So we were just a moto family.
And then you said during your time as a teenager, that's when freestyle sort of started getting underway for you?
Yeah, I think like when I was 10 or 11, the first Krusty Demons of Dirt video came out. I don't even know if you know what that is.
I do.
But,
yeah.
Yeah, kind of by the time I was on 125s, 13 or 14, by around then, Steel Roots and Terra Firmas, all those videos, and Krusty Demons of Dirt, and that just drew me in, just that free riding, shoveling jumps, just being out with your buddies, doing tricks, Supermans, and that just really caught my attention, and I started doing that, and that was it. It just kind of replaced my drive to race, got replaced by my drive to free ride, have fun on my bike, do tricks, and just ride with buddies. I could go out to the desert all day to some jumps I built for gas money and whatever I put in my cooler, but to go to the track was $25, and just you need new tires and awesome equipment, and free riding and freestyle just stuck with me. It just hit home.
That's very cool to hear, actually, because I don't see a lot of people getting into freestyle nowadays. So it seems like it's more centered around racing. Like, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm in the freestyle industry, but I see like less and less people probably are getting into it, or more. I'm very curious as what your take is on like how people get into it, because it doesn't seem like there's a system like there is in racing. It just seems like you do it and then eventually you just get better and better at it.
That's exactly right. And since I made my way into X Games, and when I was 17 was my first X Games event in 2001 in Philadelphia. But you're right, we don't have an AMA, quote unquote. We don't have an organizational body. There's just promoters that put on freestyle motocross events, and if the purse is big enough, we show up, and you know what, it's kind of the opposite, actually, Kieran, and don't even worry about it. I know you're a racer and you're beyond busy, as we all are, but no, man, it's crazy. I mean, Australia and Europe and even America, South America, are producing so many good young freestyle riders. I think the sport is definitely in great shape. And man, it's crazy. 5 years ago, you could probably name the top 20 freestylers on the planet, but now I'd say there's 100 that are just doing insane tricks, and not just little ramp kids. They can ride a dirt bike. They're good. They know how to ride a bike, and they're good at freestyle, and they can tear a course apart. And I think freestyle it's doing great, but the one thing that I think we lack, and what is hurting our sport from growing in the proper ways, is we don't have an organizational body.
You can check out the entire episode at soundcloud.com/happycamperpod.